Today we're going to look at a topic that fascinates us all, but can also intimidate us: survival in the wilderness, also known as survival. In a world that is increasingly interconnected and technologically advanced, we sometimes forget the basics that defined us as humans: survival in nature. Why is the topic of survival so important? Well, aside from the fact that it's just cool to camp or hike in the wilderness, these skills could be the difference between life and death in an emergency situation. Whether you're an outdoor enthusiast looking to expand your knowledge or just curious about the subject, I'm here to teach you the basic survival skills everyone should know. Today we will look at the essential survival basics: how to make a fire, how to build an emergency shelter, how to find food and water, and how to stay safe and healthy in an emergency. The first and most important step in survival training is making a fire. A fire is not only for warmth but also for food preparation, water purification, and as a signal for rescue workers. The classic method is to use flint and tinder. With the flint you strike sparks, which then jump to the tinder and ignite it. Always remember to never leave a fire burning unattended and to follow all local fire ordinances. There are, of course, other methods of starting a fire. Matches and lighters are convenient, but they can fail or go out. Another interesting tool is a magnifying glass. With the sun as your energy source, you can start a fire. Of course, this works only when the sun is shining. So it's always good to know several methods. Choosing the right tinder is crucial. In nature you will find various materials suitable for tinder, such as birch bark, dry grass or moss. Remember that your tinder should be dry. Damp tinder will not catch fire easily. In an emergency, you can also use your clothing or equipment as tinder. Finally, a few words about safety. Always make sure that your fire is well controlled. Surround it with stones and always have a method ready to quickly extinguish the fire, such as sand or water. Before you start building, it is important to choose the right location. The next priority after building a fire is shelter. An emergency shelter can protect you from the elements, such as wind, rain, and cold, and can be a lifesaver in an emergency. Look for a place that is protected from the wind and slightly elevated so that water can drain. The entrance of the shelter should be turned away from the main wind direction to minimize drafts. You can also use branches or an improvised curtain to close the entrance and thus better retain heat. Of course, there are many other ways to build an emergency shelter, depending on the environment and the materials available. This can be snow caves in wintry areas, or a tarp tent if you have a tarp with you. Food is also important, of course, but in most cases humans can go a few days without eating. Still, it's good to know how to find food in the wild. The first place to start looking for food is often berries and edible plants. These are relatively easy to find and do not require hunting skills. But beware. Not everything that looks tasty is edible. Some berries and plants can be poisonous. Having dealt with fire making, emergency shelter, and food, we come to another topic vital to survival. Without water, humans can only survive for a few days, so it is absolutely critical to know how to find a water source in the wilderness. The first step is to find natural water sources such as rivers, lakes, or springs. Trust your senses, but be careful. Water that looks clear is not necessarily safe to drink. There are several methods to purify water. The most common method is boiling. Heating the water to at least 100 degrees Celsius for at least 1 minute kills most harmful microorganisms. Killed. You can also use water filters or special treatment tablets if you have them with you. In a pinch, you can also use improvised filters, such as a cloth or sand and gravel, to clean the water of larger particles. But note, this will not remove microorganisms. In extreme cases, where there are no obvious sources of water, there are other techniques such as the collection of snow, condensation, or dew. Those were the basics of survival skills. I hope you learned something useful.